Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to bring you another Warhammer 40K battle report. And right now, it's time, it's tournament time. I've been talking about a lot, saying what armies I was getting prepped, and I finally made the decision that I was going to take the Canoptek Harvest. And my buddy, Meta Brian over here, the Blood Angels player, who today is playing Tyranids using Thousand Suns dice. Brian, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, and I decided I'd go anti-meta today.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it. We haven't had a lot of Tyranids out here. It's only the third time that they're going to be on the channel, so I'm glad to see. And, Brian, you have some wonderfully painted armies. Your armies are always beautiful, great to see. Much better than my green and black Tyranids.
I always appreciate those shout-outs, by the way.
There you go. There you go. So today, it is time. This is going to be tournament practice. So the first thing that we did was we went and got the mission pack offline, looked at what missions are going to be played, and we're going to be playing the first mission, day one, game one, from the GT pack. But more on that in a little bit. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Turn on that bell for notifications. Like, share, and comment down below. A lot of your comments help me to generate other content for you guys. So this is going to be, I really kind of just want to jump into what we're bringing for lists, because then we could talk a little bit after that. Brian, why don't you tell us what you're bringing today?
So today I brought 2,000 points of High Fleet Behemoth. I am running the standard Behemoth trait plus one of the custom traits. So as High Fleet Behemoth, I get +1 to my strength anytime I charge, get charged, or heroically intervene. On top of that, I'm running the custom trait that gives all of my monsters objectives secured. Furthermore, if the monster has a wound count of, or wound characteristic of 10 or more, they count as 5 models in addition to being objective secured. So we went monster heavy with this list to maximize that potential. We'll start with my HQ, which is my Hive Tyrant. You know him, you love him. He's a walking Hive Tyrant, and he is rocking a Warlord trait and a relic. I will say that everything in this list, I believe everything that can take adrenal glands outside of the Tyrant Guard has adrenal glands. So what that does is it gives the unit +1 to their strength and +1 to their movement, and then gives them access to a strat to increase their attacks in combat. So the Tyrant, he's moving 10 inches, and he'll go up to strength 12 on the charge with his sword and his lash whip. So his Warlord trait is I believe, adaptive biology. It gives him a 5 feel no pain. And then he's rocking a heavy venom cannon, and his relic is called the Maw Claws of Thyrax, which is kind of interesting. It's not a specific weapon, it's just an upgrade to the weapon that he's carrying, which gives him +1 attack on his profile. So he starts at 6 attacks, and then he'll be striking, like I said, at strength 11, strength 12 on the charge, -4, flat 3 damage. But it also lets him reroll all his wound rolls on top of rerolling hit rolls of 1 with his lash whip. So he's just rerolling everything, and then the bonus, the cherry on top, is each time he kills a unit in melee, he gets 1 additional attack on his profile for each unit that he kills, up to a maximum of 3 additional attacks. So if you max that, that's right, he'll be at 9 attacks at that profile. He also has 2 psychic powers, Paroxysm for Fight Last and Overwatch Ignore, and Psychic Scream for some additional mortal wounds. Moving on to my other HQ slot, I have a Neurothrope, the old reliable caster for Tyranids. He is rocking a Warlord trait called, I believe it's Synaptic Tendrils. It lets him use his command phase ability twice each round. That ability gives any Psyker within his Synaptic Link range the ability to roll 3d6 on a Psychic test and pick 2. Being that there are only 2 Psykers in this list, himself and the Tyrant, as long as they're within 12 inches of each other at the beginning of each turn, they're both getting that buff. And then he also has my most important buffing powers, Catalyst, to give something a 5 feel no pain, and Onslaught, to allow something to advance and charge. Both of them have the Behemoth-specific psychic power, which is quite useful, which is Unstoppable Onslaught, which gives a particular unit +1 to wound in melee. Moving on to troops, I have 1 unit of troops, 10 gargoyles. These guys are great because they are a fast objective secured unit that can do all the the secondaries like dropping banners or any of the mission specific ones that there might be. They can pick up and drop down another spot of the board if I need them to. And they're only slightly more expensive than Termagants. So anytime I have the points for them above Termagants, I'm going to take them. I have one unit that's actually not in the Force Organization slot. That's the 3 Tyrant Guard, because I have a Hive Tyrant in my list. They don't take up a spot. These guys just have the Scything Talons and Rending Claws, which is the base profile. But they are wonderful because they give bodyguards specifically to Hive Tyrants, which normally they can't benefit from that rule because they're a 12 wound character, so they can normally be targeted. These guys prevent that from happening, all the way down to 1 model. And they're also pretty decent on their own. They're toughness 6, 4 wounds, 2+ save. They're kind of tanky. In fast attack, I have 2 units. The first one being a unit of 3 Ripper Swarms. These guys I just put in here because they can hold an objective, and they also have the ability to deep strike if I need them to. Moving on, I have a Mawlock, who has a whole host of interesting rules. But what you need to know about this guy is that he can deep strike and can break the rules for getting within 9 inches of enemy units. And we'll explain that, when we get to that part in the game. But basically, he can come up and potentially get onto an objective. And remember, he's a 14 wound monster, so he counts as 5 models OBSEC. And I gave him an adaptive physiology, which is an upgrade. And the one that I gave him gives him a 4+ invulnerable save, which makes him that much more annoying to deal with when he pops up and potentially steals an objective or does some mortal wounds, or just sits there and being annoying. In elites, I have 3 units. I have a unit of 5 Gene Stealers. These guys are in here mostly because they're my only unit that can scout deploy. So I have a minimum unit of 5, but they're pretty decent on their own as a counterattack unit or just getting in the way. And as we'll see in the mission we're playing, help me get onto an objective early to make sure I get as many CP as possible. I have a single Lictor, which is a nice utility unit that has a unique style of deep striking, so to speak. But it's a single model infantry unit, so it can still raise banners, and it can find its way also into enemy deployment zones. And it actually has pretty decent stats now. It can tangle with weaker characters or smaller squads and hold its own. Next up is the big bad Haruspex. I love this guy. It's one of the few units that really hasn't gotten a point increase with all the nerfs that have happened to the Tyranid Codex lately. So whenever I get a chance to bring him, I do. He's now in this list 5 model OBSEC as a 15 wound monstrous creature. He is just a tank. He regains wounds when he kills models. And I also gave him an adaptive physiology upgrade, which allows him to heroically intervene and do so at 6 inches. So he gets near an objective. If anyone tries to come near that objective, he's going to get him. And then last but not least, I have 3 units of 2 Carnifexes. These Carnifexes are all outfitted identically. One of them's modeled slightly differently, but you won't notice that. But they all have, as I said before, they all have adrenal glands. So they're up to a base movement of 9, base strength of 7, strength 8 on the charge. And they also have enhanced senses, which lets them hit on 3s when they shoot, in addition to hitting on 3s in melee. They're equipped with Carnifex Scything Talons for their melee weapon, which puts them up to a base 6 attacks, and then they get a bonus for charging up to 7 attacks. And they're all equipped with the old reliable Heavy Venom Cannon, 3 shots, strength 9, -3, 4 damage flat. That is the list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Novak Dynasty that I like to call the Canoptek Harvest that I will be taking to the Bedlam at the Burg. Starting things off with my HQs, my army is going to be led by a Technomancer. This Technomancer has the Warlord trait that gives him +3 inches to the aura for all of his abilities, as well as the Veil of Darkness. Never leave home without it. He also comes with the Cryptek Arcanium for the failsafe Overcharger to give 1 Canoptek unit +1 attack, or a Canoptek Monster unit +D3. Over to my Overlord. He is a Pharaon, so he is able to do my Will Be Done twice. And he also comes with a Resurrection Orb, just the standard orb to help boost up some of my units like the Canoptics, the spiders, or not spiders, the scarabs, and the warriors to help bring them back up to a higher starting strength. And last for my HQs, I have 2 Chronomancers. These guys are quick. They are able to help me zone out, take objectives, as well as the big and best buff of all, giving a 5-up invulnerable save to a unit within at the beginning of my command phase. Moving over to some of my scoring units, let's go to the fast attacks first. I have 2 squads of wraiths. One is a 5-man with claws. The other is a 4-man with whip coils to give me a little bit of versatility depending on what I'm fighting against. The claws aren't going to be too helpful going into the Carnifexes today, being that -1 damage, but the higher strength might help me force some damage through. Over into the rest of my fast attacks, I have 2 9-man squads of Canoptek Scarabs. These little bugs are my babies and have been my babies all edition long. They have support with the Canoptek Spider that we'll talk about in a little bit, as well as the fact that they're just 4 wound bodies that the Carnifex's Venom Cannons can pick up at 1 shot apiece, which is something I never like seeing. Finish going over to those Canoptek Spiders that I was talking about. I have a 3-man Canoptek Spider unit. They will all have particle beamers, and I have 1 gloom prism in there, so if those Hive Tyrant or the Zoanthrope get too close, I can try and stop them with a Deny the Witch. I also have 1 troop of Necron warriors. This is a 19-man squad with the Gauze Reapers, so they can be quick and on the move, able to do ancient machineries and any other mission-specific secondaries, plus having that bit of OBSEC helps out in most matchups. I have noticed in the past that the 5-model OBSEC units like that have given me problems with the full OBSEC Dynasty that I was running in the past, so we'll see if that's going to be the same issue that I have today. And last, but certainly not least, the big, the mean, the tag team champions of the world, Nightbringer and the Void Dragon. While the Void Dragon's not going to have a lot to chew through today, being the anti-vehicle type, he still has a lot of high-strength weapons, as well as the Catan powers, to help him do damage. The Nightbringer, on the other hand, if he gets in there, if he's able to touch some of these Carnifexes and that, he is going to quickly be able to eviscerate them and remove them from the battlefield, which tells me he's probably got a giant bullseye on his head. For those of you guys who don't know, the Novak Dynasty gives me the ability to, when I charge, get charged with Heroic Intervention. I get +1 to my strength as well as +1 AP. I will also have +1 on my charges, and I will have, when 6 is to wound, I will get an additional +1 AP because I will be using Protocol as the Hungry Void as my generic protocol for the entire game.
So today we are playing mission number 11 in the Arcs of Omen Grand Tournament packet, Recover the Relics. This is a 6 objective mission, but it is a hold 1, hold 2 on the primary, and there are restrictions for gaining CP in this one. You must hold an objective in no man's land in order to gain the battle-forged CP, and if you hold your opponent's marker, then you also get an additional CP bonus. The mission tertiary is called Break Them Body and Soul. This one is simply kill points. You get 1 victory point for each unit that you destroy per battle round, up to a maximum of 3 victory points per battle round.
All right, so those are our lists. I'm real excited to get these guys on the table, get the Necrons out here and start working with and practicing and getting the reps in here. Tyranids, always fun to bash on some bugs. And like I was saying during the introductions, the 5 OBSEC is pretty huge against me. It was big during the all OBSEC time because I remember we played a practice game and I was actually left like dumbfounded at a moment of like, what do I do here? How do I get by the 5 wound count? Because a lot of my strats with the full OBSEC were touch an objective with a single Scarab and ha ha ha, I take it. Now you can look at it and go, your Scarab ain't enough. But I've been off the full OBSEC place. This army plays on a lot of different strategies. I actually have a lot more damage in here than I do in other lists, and the double Catan could make for some interesting things. Are you concerned about the double Catan? Because I noticed you did not say the Reaper of Obliterax.
So Tyranids, I think the Reaper is a little unnecessary if you build your Tyranid list right. We have ways of dealing wounds in multiple phases: shooting, psychic, obviously the fight phase, and even the charge phase. So I don't have to game plan around the Catan with this list as much as I would with, say, the Custodes. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome, awesome. So real quick, going over the secondaries, I'm going to be running the Necron Special 3, Purge the Vermin, Ancient Machineries, and Treasure of Aeons. Now, once we get set up and we know where we are, Brian is going to select 3 objectives outside of my deployments, outside of anyone's deployment zone, to be the Treasure of Aeons. And since we have 4 objectives, that means 2 of them are going to be really close to your side. But for me, the way I'm looking at it is, as long as I hold the one that's close to me for the duration of the game, that's at least 10 points. So that's not horrible in my mind. And as well as if I push over and am able to push onto a specific side, I can score those points as well. Brian, what are you doing for secondaries?
So I'm going with no prisoners, the standard anti-Necron secondary. I'm also going with behind enemy lines. I alluded to the way I can manipulate getting into the deployment zone with deep strikers, and the rest of my army just wants to move forward, so we're going to try that. And then the last one is psychic interrogation. Normally I'll take either that or warp ritual with a list like this. Warp ritual is a little more safe in terms of guaranteeing the points, but it's got a smaller max. Now that psychic interrogation requires line of sight to an extent, but DJ's got a lot of characters, and at least one of those, Catan, will probably be poking his head out somewhere. So I feel pretty good about psychic interrogation.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Lane was awesome enough to leave us this beautiful terrain to start using this on the channel for a little bit. We're going to keep running with this terrain for a couple of battle reports. All that's left to decide who's going to be deploying where and who's going to be deploying first, more or less. So, sir, odd or even?
We'll go even.
And that is a 6. That is an even. So I guess I will be deploying first.
In this one, yeah, I'll let you deploy first.
You want me to deploy first? All right, man. Let's do this. And we are deployed. So we'll talk about a little bit about what we're doing here for this mission. Starting over here at the Necrons. I am fully on board with everything. I don't have much to do out of strategic with this list. So I put everything up on the line to be able to move up easily and just snag ancient machineries without fully revealing myself over here on this side. Able to hit objective marker 4 and get those points early, or choose to go a little bit later with it. Either way, objective marker 4 is a nice, easy little place for my scarabs to be able to snag, as well as hide back here for later in the game, because like I said, those venom cannons can pick up scarabs really, really easily. Void Dragon is out in the middle, trying to play a little bit of a threat and make the Tyranids have to commit, as well as the Nightbringer's on a really good angle for him to be able to get shots on him on the first turn. He's going to have to really rush up into the terrain early, and that can allow me to be able to engage him with the Void Dragon, or my spiders might be able to get in there without even having to use my veil. Moving over here, I got all of the wraiths hiding underneath here, all behind the wall, all ready to jump out and try and make pushes towards Treasure of Aeons, as well as Ancient Machineries to move deeper into his deployment zone later into the game. And the Chronomancer back here to hit 5-up invulns on my Necron Warriors, as well as zone out some of the Deep Strikers that Brian has put in reserve. Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you got going on here?
Well, it's very subtle, as you can tell. What I did put on the board is in a nice blob in the middle with flexibility to go whichever way I need. I just have a unit of gargoyles in the back on the back objective, and I have a unit of 5 Gene Stealers sneaking up across the line into that building to nab an objective so I can get that first turn command point.
Well, wait, Brian. I thought all objective markers were not able to be touched by your units at the beginning of the game.
As I said, they snuck up because they are infiltrators, so they can deploy outside of my zone.
Exactly.
This is why I take them.
Exactly. It's kind of a good mission for that type of stuff. I do not have anything that forward deploys, so I'm kind of stuck where I am. And yeah, also Brian's got a little bit of reserves for us today. You got the Moloch, a Lictor, and the 3 Rippers.
Yes.
All deep striking.
Yeah, so the Rippers just have a normal deep strike. The Lictor can deep strike and appear either within 6 inches of a board edge or within a piece of area terrain. Then the Moloch, as I said, has that Death from Below ability, which I'll describe when he does it.
Alrighty, so the only thing left to do is determine who goes first. Brian, what are you thinking? Are you wanting to go first or second out of this one?
Probably second. I don't know if there's that much for me to do going first, but we'll make the most of it.
All right. I'm not really particular on either one, actually, in this one. I kind of would like to go second as well, but let's see. Well, that didn't help. Fours don't tell you. Don't tell the tale. 6-2. Looks like Brian and the Tyranids will be opening us up. And we'll be back after the Tyranid movement phase. Alrighty, Tyranids have spread out. Looks like Brian's covering the backfield, trying to make it so my Veil can't get in there. And, well, then there's this. Brian, talk to me about this monster mash.
It's a cluster. That's what it is. First of all, we'll notice I put a marker over here on DJ's home objective. That is my Terror from the Deep marker for my Moloch. So the way this works in a nutshell is I pick a single point on the board. I give DJ a turn notice. At the end of my next movement phase, my Moloch's going to pop up somewhere within 12 inches of this marker and has the potential to deal mortal wounds to anything that gets too close. And like I said, the only restriction is it can't come up within engagement range of anything. It can come up within 9 inches. If I do come up within 9 inches of an enemy unit, I just can't charge that turn. But so I can do some mortal wounds and potentially pop up on that objective with 5 model OPSEC. As far as the rest of my movement phase, everything just kind of advanced or moved up. The only real things that are going to happen of consequence is the front Carnifex got reroll once to hit from my Hive Tyrant, and he has line of sight to the Void Dragon, so I'll try to pick off his first 3 wounds. And the Hive Tyrant he advanced to just within 24 inches of and line of sight of that Void Dragon, so you can try to get off his first Psychic Interrogation.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of with the big bugs. Like the first turn, you're in a cluster, and then as the game starts going on, 1, you will eventually lose some models, which will open up some holes. But 2, you'll get to move out and be able to get more space across the field as you go. But that first initial brick does really look like a nasty wave of purple and blue. All right, well, let's move over to your shooting phase and see what we can make happen. All right, so wrapping up the Tyranid turn, I did misspeak, and there was a Psychic phase, which got Catalyst onto the Tyrant Guard, as well as Brian was able to successfully Psychic Interrogate the Void Dragon for 3 points. No additional command points there, as he rolled an 8, and the Catalyst went off on the Tyrant Guard. Then the Carnifex then Catalyst went off on the Tyrant Guard. I think I said the Carnifex went off. But the Carnifex took shots at the Void Dragon, and 1 wound went through, but the Void Dragon 4-up saved it. So at the end of Brian's first turn, he will score the 3 for the interrogation. Now it's time for the Necrons to answer back. All right, so finishing up the Necron movement phase, just kind of scooted out, moved out. I got a couple of things in the works here. So the blue chip is the 5-up invuln. The green poker chips are my will be done. And the black poker chip is the one for the +1 attack or +D3 on monsters. So the Void Dragon scooted up. He's going to chuck a spear at the Carnifex and then try and Sky of Falling Star some of the backfield units. The Nightbringer moved up, not touching the terrain, but just kind of get there to threaten, since Objective Marker 3 and Objective Marker 1 are my Treasure of Aeons, as well as Objective Marker 2, where the Necron warriors moved up and got themselves out of 6 inches of that center of that template so they won't get hit. Scarabs moved right onto it. I got a little bit of tech play in here, so if he does hit and try to clear some Scarabs, since he can't come in engagement range, if he pops more Scarabs than I like, the only pocket that I can give him is either going to be right next to the Spiders or right next to the Wraiths, which I can spend a command point and Heroic in there and try and rip that Moloch off during his turn before I lose the points, the primary points. Otherwise, pretty just a lightweight turn, just moving up, getting ready, getting in position. I want to resolve this Moloch before we start doing anything too aggressive. And with that, we're going to move over to the Catan phase. All right, once again, a real fast turn. The Void Dragon was able to, he only got a couple of gargoyles with the Sky of Falling Stars, missed the Gene Stealers, and missed the Tyrant Guard expectingly. And he missed with his Voltaic Storm, that his nice other CTAN power, but he landed home with the Spear and was able to do 4 wounds to the Carnifex, which is a good start for now. But other than that, we just kind of got in position. Nothing else really too exciting. Won't score Purge the Vermin. Starred Ancient Machinery is back here in the corner, which won't score until my next command phase. And I will get a 2 on Treasure of Aeons for holding Objective Marker 2. Didn't kill any units, so won't get that on the primary. So very, very slow moving turn 1, but that's okay. We're in a good position to try to make efforts later into the game. So that'll end turn 1.
I actually have to roll for morale on my gargoyles.
Oh, you do. Let's see
because I believe they're outside of my measly 6-inch synapse range. Which is Yep. So we'll roll and then figure it out. 3, and I believe they're leadership 5, so that means they do fail.
Oh no.
So we'll pull 1.
Oh,
we're still over half.
So you got 5 guys. Yes, you're over half. So any ones? No, we're good. So that will resolve the turn. Thank you, Brian. And we will move over to the, I almost said Blood Angels, over to the Tyranid turn 2. We're going to start at the bottom of the command phase, actually, or the movement phase, and work our way up. So Mawlock came up and actually failed to remove any of the scarabs, and he's going to hang out back there, making sure that he's out of heroic range for the Canoptek stratagem for both my Spider and the Wraith, and be able to score some behind enemy line points. Over here, the Tyranids are moving. He's on the move. And any tech, anything you want to tell people that you're trying to do here, other than go forward?
Take out the Void Dragon, and we're just trying to... I thought about going for both Catan this round, but I think that's going to put my Hive Tyrant in a position where I don't want to be. So we just kind of shuffled around and played it safe for another round.
Awesome. All right, so now we're going to go into that Psychic phase, because you still get one of those. All right, so at the end of the Psychic and Shooting phase, we got a lot of new Psychic powers out here. You got Unstoppable Onslaught for +1 to wound in combat on this Carnifex.
Mm-hmm.
And then this Horror-Specs over here is Catalyst and Onslaught, so he was able to shoot his tongue, which did not hit home. But
it hit home. But didn't do the job.
Didn't do the job. But the Carnifexes, all those Venom Cannons, all over the place, were able to do a lot of work. They dropped got the 3 wounds on both the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer, and then were able to pick up 5 Scarab bases, but 1 reanimated. So we're going to go over into the charge phase and get some of these units charged in combat and see how this all resolves. Void Dragon is taking all the attention here. He got dropped to 3 wounds off the Horror-Specs' charge for, what was the stratagem called?
Trampling Charge.
Trampling Charge. So he's able to do 3 wounds there to him. So now the Void Dragon's in trouble as he's got only 3 wounds left. And this is where we're going to see if the Void Dragon can make it through. And I do have 2 CP. We'll see if that matters. Which one are you going to do first?
We're actually going to go with the Carnifex first, because with that +1 to wound, it gives me the most shots at killing that guy.
And you got 7 attacks on him?
7 attacks, and he's rerolling 1s to hit. Wounding on 2s now because he gets up to strength 8 on the charge with Adrenal Glands and Behemoth, so I'll be wounding you on 2s.
All right.
Do I spend the CP to reroll wounds as well?
All right, so no additional command points spent. You're just going to roll out your attacks?
I elected not to reroll wounds, so I am hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s because I got the buff from the Hive Tyrant. And that's a good thing on those reroll 1s.
There you go.
2s miss. So
and then
5 hits.
Strength.
And we're strength 8, but with +1 to wound.
So we're looking at me on 2s. All right, so we got 5. And you're 3 damage.
3 damage each, yeah.
So fails 1 of these and he's dead. He fails multiple of those. Let's see if he explodes. He does not. I have yet to have a Catan explode. So Void Dragon is gone. So with the Void Dragon dead, the Horror-Specs and the Tyrant Guard were able to move up and steal this objective from me. It won't stop the Ancient Machineries because I just have to be within range for it to complete. So I'll still get that, but it does take the objective. And the Carnifex is moving more towards center, or more towards the center of my army. So finishing out the turn, it's going to be, you got the 3 points for behind enemy lines.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did we get? I was
not able to do, because I realized after I moved, I took myself out of line of sight to do Psychic Interrogation, so nothing there. But I am up to 2 unknown prisoners, and I've got 1 kill tally so far. And just to clarify, the Tyrant Guard were able to move that far because I played Overrun. So since they charged, they did a 3-inch pile-in, and then instead of consolidating, they moved their normal 6. So they moved over towards this objective.
All right. Well, with one Catan down, we'll see what I can do with the Necrons now. All right. So the Necron Warriors got my Will Be Done in a 5-up invuln, moving up. They're going to complete ancient machineries, and for my command protocol this round, I choose to be able to still shoot and complete actions. So since they're obsec, they'll actually complete it this turn. The race, I brought one of my squads up to start trying to push on objective marker number 3. The other squad just fanned out so we can get through this last of the deep strike turns. My spiders moved back to try and clean up this maul lock and see if we can't get them out of here. And my scarabs got 1 base returned and moved on to still tagging objective 6. We'll make it a little bit harder to draw a line of sight onto them. Chronomancer moved back to keep coverage on the backfield. And these scarabs right here, which is actually a 9 they're split between, are hopefully going to try and take out the Tyrant Guard. So hopefully, if things go according to my plan, we should be able to remove these 3 guys right here, right now. Let's hope. So it's still a tall order. There's a lot of chunky wounds in there, but that's what we're going to be trying for. So let's see how things resolve with the Nightbringer's Catan phase. All right, nothing too much exciting from the shooting of the Catan phase. The Nightbringer was able to drop the Haruspecs down to 9 wounds. The Feel No Pain really coming in clutch to slow him down a little bit. And the Warriors took the Carnifex out in the center. And now we're going to go over to charges. So what we're going to try and do, the Wraiths need a 9 to make it to the Gene Stealers that are back there behind the wall. And everything else is going to need some small charges. So we'll come back and we'll do one of the combat stops because I think there'll be something kind of cool in here. All right, so the Nightbringer was able to take out the Haruspecs. That ignoring invulns and everything, just big beastly damage. And now we're going to move over here to my spiders and the scarabs into the Mawlock. So you are looking at using transhuman, you said, for this guy?
Yeah, I can, for 1 CP, I can transhuman a monster, basically.
Okay. So I have now off camera, I did roll the number of attacks I get because I got the plus D3. And once again, I got 3.
DJ never rolls anything but a 3 against me with those. So
with the spiders. Only with the
formality.
It really is. It's might as well just say, okay, so I get plus 3 attacks. Here we go. So I do have plus 1 to hit because of the Technomancer with his Canoptek control node.
But -1 to hit because I'm a Moloch.
And then there's that.
Sneaky boy.
All right, so now we need force. All right, so that definitely helped you with the transhuman because that would have stopped those 2. So you got 4 from them. AP3 goes to AP4 because I'm Novak.
But he has the 4-up invulnerable.
And then you're on invuln. Yeah. Never mind for the 6s. Oh my
4
gosh.
6s.
Wow. Okay.
Take 0 damage.
So scarabs, their turn. Let's see if they can do any damage. I'll roll them off camera. All right. So resolving out the rest of the combat of the Necron fight phase, the race were able to pick up the Gene Stealers and take that back, which was one of my treasure. Take that back like I had it before. Take the objective. That was one of my treasure.
Millions of years ago, maybe.
Maybe. Yesterday. Just yesterday. Over here, the Necron Warriors finished their Ancient Machineries. So actually I scored 8 points on Ancient Machineries this turn. 1 for that and 1 for the one that completed in the command phase over here. Scarabs were we kind of just punched each other. No models removed. A little bit of damage done. Nothing really too exciting happened here other than the Haruspecs dropping to the Void Dragon, or the Nightbringer. And then over here, the Spiders failed to pick up the Mawlock. And
the spiders failed to damage the Mawlock.
Yeah. The Scarabs, on the other hand, they chewing on the Mawlock. And one of my spiders got dropped down to 1 wound. Not too terrible. Just means the Mawlock's going to probably pick him up. So after measuring everything out and seeing what happened, I will get 8 this turn on the Ancient Machineries. I will only score 3 on Treasure of Aeons for those 2 objectives over there. And for Purge the Vermin, I will only get 1 point for my back table quarter because I wasn't able to pick the Mawlock up. But that's okay. I'm happy to get the 3 on the kill points extras for the primary for this turn. So we will see how I can answer back. Not terrible of a turn, but I think I'm about to lose a Catan. All right, Tyranids are pushing on this this left flank over here. We got a bunch of Carnifexes moving around the corner over here. I'm pretty sure the Nightbringer is about to see his end. And we're going to have no Catans over here on our side. And the Synaptic Imperative that Brian chose this turn let him fall back and still charge. So the Tyrant Guard got out, and they're actually inside the building. He's just hanging out up top for ease, because they may be charging into the Nightbringer if need be. Is that part of the plan?
They could charge right back into the Scarabs.
Oh, they could charge right back into the Scarabs too,
Yep.
as well. So that's about it. The Mawloc fell back to not get punched. And I could use the strat to heroic with the Canoptek unit being the spider, so that might burn a CP out of me if I decide to do that. And then over here, this Carnifex who has the reroll ones from the Hive Tyrant came around the corner, and he's going to try and tangle with the Wraiths. Gargoyles came back to hold objective marker number 5, and the reserves came in now for the Rippers and the Lictor to hold objective marker number 1.
There was nowhere for me to really put them in the backfield, so I'm just hoping the Mawloc can stay alive, or that I can get something else close enough to get behind enemy lines. So they're just going to sit here for now.
Right on. All right, so now it's on to that psychic phase. Just like that, Mr. Carnifex removes the Catan. And he doesn't explode, which is tending to be a pattern with these guys. I never have them blow up. As far as other shooting goes, we took out 3 of the Scarabs from this squad that's kind of hiding in the building with the combination of a bunch of different Venom Cannons, and then the Venom Cannons. And then long range down here, one of the Carnifexes popped the spider with 1 wound remaining, as well as the Hive Tyrant was able to clean up a couple of Scarabs. 1 reanimated back, but still 2 of them went the way of the dinosaurs. So now we're going to go into the assault phase. So what are we looking at for this Tyrant Guard? What are they going to end up doing?
They're going to charge right back into those Scarabs.
Charging right into the Scarabs. Carnifex over here, it wasn't that successful. He only picked up 1 of the Wraiths, but he shot 1 down too. So there's 2 Wraiths left there. Wraiths turned around and were able to put a couple wounds on him and drop him down to 6. And then over here, the Scarabs survived. That 5-up invuln coming in clutch, as well as, when a Carnifex can't hit a little bug. And they didn't do too well at that. But 2 of them lived. One's got 2 damage on it. But I did lose the objective, sadly. Those will be taken away from me. So we're going to finish up the turn. Brian, what'd you get for scoring?
So the Mawloc gave me 3 for behind enemy lines.
Yep.
I went up 5 more points on no prisoners for killing all those Scarabs. I did get 3 on psychic interrogation. So far I've got 1 kill point. Ironically, the only 2 units I've actually killed so far are the Catan.
Right.
Because the Carnifex flubbed pretty badly over here, and I was not able to finish those Scarabs off because, well, those Carnifexes flubbed pretty badly too. They like to roll 1s to wound.
Yeah, but the units are pretty beat up, so we'll see how that turns out as we go into the bottom of 3 for the Necrons. All right, let's get crazy with it. So I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm kind of opening up a little bit here now that everything's on the table. We got the Wraiths fell back out of combat since they could fall back and charge, and they're going to try and make a 6-inch charge, which will need a 5 to get over onto these Rippers and try and take them out because of my Novak +1. Over here, my spiders did get picked up by the Veil from the Technomancer. They're going to try and shoot down the Gargoyles and maybe go with a long charge into that Carnifex. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Over here, Necron Warriors are doing all sorts of Necron Warrior things, trying to get up on more objectives, cover more of the field, all those things, what we like to do with them, how we like to see them happen. And they're on a short charge onto that Carnifex too, if I decide to bring them in. Overlord and Chronomancer came out to hold the objective down, and my Wraiths are now ready to try and engage the Mawloc. Over here in the middle, I use the remnants of my Scarabs. I know I'm going to give up some points, but I'm using them to kind of block off the way these Carnifexes have to go with all this little labyrinth of terrain to at least slow down their move going into the next turn. So yeah, that's what we're going with. We'll see how it plays out as we go over into the Necron shooting phase, since I don't have a Catan phase anymore. All right, so the spiders did their job and they picked up the gargoyles. Not a whole lot else happened during the shooting phase. The Necron warriors were able to put 1 wound on it. I was hesitant to use some strats on them. I didn't think to see the value behind it, and I think I was right in that call to keep my 3 command points. So I only got 1 wound on that Carnifex. Not a big deal. I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to be able to do to those things for the duration of the game. And man, this Chronomancer cannot hit at all. Second time he's missed that giant worm. So we're going to move on to the charges and see if we can't pick up some better action there. All right, so after the combat step, the spiders failed their charge and failed it on a reroll. The Necron warriors were a little more successful. I spent a command point on the Novak strat to give them +1 attack, bringing that Carnifex down to 2 wounds. Hopefully we can clean him up a little bit later in the game. Over here, the Wraiths were able to pick up the Mawlog and take him out of there to give me some Purge of Vermin points. And the Wraiths did what Wraiths do and picked up the Rippers pretty easily. So at the end of the third turn, I will get. I didn't score any Ancient Machineries this turn because I didn't start that secondary. I did, however, get all of my Treasure of Aeons this turn, so I will get 4 points on that. I scored 2 on Purge the Vermin, and I got 3 on the Mission Primary. So we'll go back over and see how these Tyranid Carnifexes can stomp all over my bugs. All right, Tyranids finished up their movement phase. Mr. Carnifex fell back out of combat so that I have to go after him to get the kill. Mr. Hive Tyrant's coming back. What's he looking to do?
Shoot some stuff and make a stand on that objective.
There's definitely some stuff there for him to shoot. Is he looking at the spiders or the warriors?
Spiders.
You don't want to soak them up into warriors.
Yeah, great target for the venom.
Make me use my resurrection orb.
Oh yeah.
And then over here, Wraiths, they did good, but I don't think they're going to do this great. Into the Carnifex re-rolling 1s, and Elictor over there look like they're saying, guys, get off our objective. And Scarabs did what I hoped they would do. They kind of stopped and funneled some of those Carnifexes, so at least they slowed them down, made them trip up for a turn. However, the Tyrant Guard were able to make their advance move and rush through the building, and now they are in my deployment zone to score him behind enemy lines at the end of the turn. So let's see what the Tyranids are going to go into their Psychic phase, and we'll come back after that. After the Tyranid shooting phase and Psychic phase, the Hive Tyrant, as well as one of the Carnifexes, were able to drop 2 of the spiders. Over here, the casting, we got Unstoppable Onslaught on this Carnifex, so now he's going to be re-rolling. What is it? He gets +1 to wound or re-rolling the wounds?
+1 to wound.
+1 to wound. Try and make sure those Wraiths are finished off, and that's the same Carnifex that's re-rolling 1s. Then over here, some shots went downfield at the Wraiths. One of them went away, and then that 4-up was the 4-up and the dense cover were strong to be able to keep those guys around. So now we are moving over into the charge step. Going to charge me?
Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully we can keep some guys alive. All right. So resolving the Tyranid fight phase. We got 1 Wraith left alive with 1 wound. He was able to survive through the Carnifex and the Lictor. Gotta love those 4-up invulns. Over here, most of the Scarabs are cleared. I got 2 Scarabs left in that 1 unit. One of them's beaten up pretty badly. They think that's going to be the end of their game for most of this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else really going on. So Brian, what were you able to get out of the turn? You did finish. You killed 1 unit.
One unit, which was the 2 Scarabs, because again, Carnifex couldn't get the job done. Lictor tried, but there's still 1 Wraith with 1 wound left over there. I left 1 spider there. I was just trying to power them down. I picked off a Wraith. So 1 kill point. I did get up to 10 points on no prisoners. And I got my Psychic Interrogation off for 3, and behind enemy lines for 3 as well.
All right. Now it's time for the Necrons to finish it, close out turn 4. So, finishing up the Necron movement phase. The Wraiths are coming up to try and get the Tyrant Guard out of here, hopefully, so I can score some Purge the Vermin. The last of the Scarabs are still blocking to slow down the Carnifex going into my deployment zone. And the Warriors are on the offensive. I decided to not go after Ancient Machineries this time, and we're just going to try and take out this Carnifex with some shooting, and then charge into the Hive Tyrant and see if we can't beat him up a little bit. So this is a turn where that OBSEC monsters came into effect, because without that, I was going to start Ancient Machineries with the spiders, because I would have controlled the objective 3-1. But that OBSEC was just too much for me. Can't get past it. So we'll see if we can't pick off this Carnifex and beat up this Hive Tyrant. Necron Warriors were able to eliminate the Carnifex nicely. I spent the strat to have their Gauze do the auto-wounding 6s, which helped. And then nothing really else happened over here. We'll just scan the field real quick so you guys can see what's going on. Everyone else, the Chronomancer managed to actually hit this time, but then failed to wound. So we did 1 wound to the Hive Tyrant.
One wound.
Yep. 1 wound. Yeah, not too bad. I'll take it. And now we're going to go into some charges. We're going to try and see if we can't do a little more damage to that Hive Tyrant. So the Wraiths were unable to take out the Tyrant Guard, which is going to hurt a little for Purge the Vermin. I reduced them down to 1, but was not able to finish off the squad. And then across the board over here, the matchup with the Hive Tyrant, the Spiders, the Warriors, everyone were able to beat the Hive Tyrant up real nicely, dropping him down to 5 wounds. Unfortunately, not finishing him off. And the Hive Tyrant turned around and smacked both the Spiders off the table. So for my turn, I am going to get a 3 for Treasure of Aeons. I was able to pick up 2 of those points. I will get 2 for Purge the Vermin, as I've cleared the left side of the field. And I didn't score Ancient Machineries this turn. I only eliminated 1 unit for the primary. Still not a bad turn. As we close out, we're going into turn 5 for the Tyranids. All right, so Tyranid movement phase, as well as some psychic powers. The Hive Tyrant is still in combat, kind of locked in there. And the Lictor moved over. He's going to come join the party. The Hive Tyrant was able to Psychic Interrogate and the Technomancer and pass, now that I have no way of denying him. And then over here, the Neurothrope went running. Looks like he's might be fighting me in combat or something. Not sure what's going on there. Soon enough, we'll know. And these Carnifexes are moving up to try to make this Tech Chronomancer see better days. So it's pretty much it. Oh, and the Neurothrow put Catalyst and Onslaught on himself. So very interested to see what Brian's got planned with him.
He advanced and rolled a 6 on his advance roll.
He did.
So he can still charge.
He can. So the Technomancer fell in the shooting phase, but came back to life with the Resurrection Stratagem. And the Carnifexes failed to take out the Techno over here. I'm sorry, the Chrono over here. And now we're going to charges. Okay, so you got to tell me, what is the plan with this dang Neurothrow?
Oh, he's charging.
He's charging the Chronomancer?
Yes.
So the Tyrant and the Lictor are still in combat over here, as neither one of them fell. The Wraith died to the Lictor. And then over here, the Overlord was slaughtered by the Carnifex through a window, which I consider trying to roll for him, but I just didn't think it was fully worth it at this point in the game. And the Neurothrope his epic deeds were not sought, as the Chronomancer still lives. The Wraiths were able to take out the Tyrant Guard. So, Brian, what'd you get for this turn?
So I got a couple more kills on no prisoners. I got my wound count up to 102, which puts me at 12 points. Mr. Neurothrope there gave me behind enemy lines, and I did get my last psychic interrogation off. Luckily, I killed those spiders, so he couldn't deny, and I rolled a 5, which was just what I needed. So I got 3 on those, and I did finally tally 3 kills so far on my turn, plus 8 primary at the beginning.
All right, so now we're going to go into the Necron final turn and see what we can wrap up here. So the final Necron turn. The Necrons, I was able to repair and throw a couple more guys in there, chained back, and fell back out of combat, advanced the Technomancer, so I was able to touch this objective and take it with my OBSEC Warriors as well as 1 guy, so that gives me 2 models to take it away from the Carnifex, who only counts as 1 OBSEC. Technomancer still hanging out. Chronomancer still hanging out on objective marker number 2. And then over here, the Catalyst and everything was successful in thwarting the Wraiths from being able to take out the Neurothrope, who remains with 1 wound left.
The invincible Neurothroat.
So that'll actually cut a little bit into my points, sadly. So we're looking at the end of the turn, I will get a 1 on Purge the Vermin, only for the 1 table quarter. I'm going to score a 3 on Treasure of Aeons because I was able to get the 2, take the 1 objective and hold the other one that was close to me. And I'm going to score, no, didn't get the Ancient, and I will score a 12 on primaries. Didn't kill a unit, just get the 12 on primaries because I contest, or I'm sorry, I take this objective because he's not a objective secured. I have this objective. I took this one over here, and I'm objective secured over here. So we'll be back with the final score in the recap. All right, final score, Necrons 83, Tyranids 81. Brian, what are your first thoughts after this game?
Well, it's the first time I played High Fleet Behemoth. It was fun with the OBSEC monsters. I really didn't know which way this game was going to go. It was close the whole time, and it was a really fun game, really close. There were some times that my Carnifex has let me down in combat, but overall, for playing this type of list for kind of the first time, I was decently happy with it.
Yeah, Carnifexes are great. They're really good gunboats. They're able to float around the field, and just it's like early on, like I was telling you early on, I was like a couple Carnifexes. I thought a few more. I mean, the horror specs got in the way, but a couple of the big bugs got removed very, very quickly. And then everything starts to whittle away that your opponent has for answers to be able to take those things out. And then by the end of the game, this is what you're left with, a bunch of big bugs that it's like, well, I can't really answer these things. The objective secured was huge. It was very tough to get around. And from someone who played OBSEC Necrons all through the beginning of it, that's such a grad utility. Biggest thing that I'm questioning myself, I thought going after the Hive Tyrant was going to be, I was going to be able to pick him up and then just kind of hold the whole back corner like that. And after it failed, looking back on it, I probably should have played into the Ancient Machineries. That could have been 4 extra points, putting me at that 87, because nothing changed over there. I didn't get him. So I could have easily taken the Spiders, went into the Carnifex, got rid of him like I needed to, because he was definitely a threat, and then just left the Hive Tyrant alone. What's he going to do? Shoot some warriors? I mean, in that case, that's what I want to happen. The Overlord would have survived. I think that was kind of a little bit of a misstep. I got greedy going into the Hive Tyrant, but I wanted to also test it. I was looking at the Warriors. The Warriors were able to go through, charge, do a lot of damage to Carnifex. I thought that they might have had some hope. Not quite enough. Maybe if I would have gotten another round of shooting at him, like a full Necron Warrior shooting, I think that would have done more. But I don't think that was a wise play, and I almost got that almost got me for that one. I should not have gone into shouldn't have went that deep into your thing and just held that objective that was a Treasure of Aeons, held it, Ancient Machine to read it, gotten 4 extra points on it, not lost my Overlord. And I think I gave up some points there that I could have in hindsight. It's first time for me coming back to this list and kind of seeing where those power levels kind of creep and go. But all around, I'm still very happy with the list.
I mean, I knew there was nothing I could do about those Warriors. I just don't have the volume to deal with them. So my strategy just became to mitigate them and not worry about killing them. But you did a really good job of using your last couple Scarabs to block my Carnifexes from fully getting through, because taking out those Wraiths would have been beneficial. I don't know if it would have tipped the scale, but more no prisoners points, because I ended up I think I got 12 on all of my secondaries. There was a turn where I kind of forgot about Psychic Interrogation, so I didn't have line of sight for anybody. And then that's another 12 points. I mean, I would have gotten maybe another no prisoners plus a kill point. And with the game being as tight as it was, those mistakes hurt.
I got real lucky to be able to get that positioning, and I caught that last second. I'm like, well, you know what? Wait a minute. These Carnifexes can't go through all these buildings, so let's just stop you. And then the race were able to move through, clean up the Tyrant Guard, and somehow they didn't take out that Neurothroat. I have no idea. They should have taken him out clean and clear and everything. Should have left the Chronomancer in there. I mean, he didn't hit anything else. Maybe he would have hit that. Oh, man. But very happy with this. I'm going to get a couple more games, keep practicing, getting this thing ready to go. But this is the list. This is what we're going to be taking. So I really have a lot of good feeling with this list. This list feels really nice. It plays on all the things that I like to utilize. I just need to watch and not get aggressive like that towards the end. And like I said, I lost probably 4 points on the Ancient and maybe a point or two on Treasure, and as well giving up those points. So there was like at least a 7 point gap that could have been in there. Mind you, I don't really care in the sense if I'm giving my opponent a couple of points, but I lost at least 4 points that could have given me 87, and maybe something in Purge that would have at least gotten me up to that 89. So it's just some things to think about. Great test game, great practice game. I like going against. You have more OBSEC than I'm probably going to have to deal with as far as a lot of armies are concerned. There's going to be OBSEC units, but to see 6 Carnifexes, Hive Tyrant, the Haruspecs all having objectives secured, that's a lot to have to deal with, especially when it just touches it and goes, mine.
And then Haruspecs can,
mine,
move 6 inches heroic.
Mine. And that's my game. That's what I was supposed to be doing, sir. All right, man. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the battle report, and we'll talk to you again soon.